Might have to color me red and yellow and call me jumper cable, so I'm probably about to start something, but that's all right. I'm a Christian, churchgoer. We ought to get together and assemble ourselves and be together. It teaches us things. We hear the word. But I think we're missing the boat sometimes. Y'all know any paramedics or EMTs? I got a couple of them in the family and got some close friends that are paramedics. They go to school for quite a long time, a lot of training. They even have to re-up every few years and do a continuing education of, it's several dozen hours. But they have to stay on top of things and learn. And that's kind of a brotherhood too. They hang out together because I wouldn't understand what it's like to pull up on a wreck, mangle bodies, and not be able to save somebody. So it's got to be tough on those old boys, so they kind of stick together. But I thought about it in the context of, that's kind of like the church. You know, a paramedic's not necessarily responsible for getting that person in that trauma lined out for the long term. Their job is to show up, assess the stress and the trauma, and get that person stabilized until they can get them to the good doctor who can take a little more time in fixing them. Paramedic doesn't do it, but he loads them up and he gets them there safely and keeps them from dying on the way. I think our trouble is a lot of folks in church tonight, probably should be. Have some pastor friends may get upset at me, you may too, but once you get over your good mad, settle down and think about what I'm saying. I'm pointing directly at me because it's really bothered me lately on how I approach it, and I can do a whole lot better. But we go to church. I know some good friends that don't miss a service, and I went out with them several times to eat, as we often do. That's all right, a little fellowship. Over the years I've known them, I have yet to see them bow their head and give grace, even 30 minutes after we walk out of that church. Now, you do what you want to on that, but I don't doubt their Christianity at all. But I think we get complacent, y'all. Good Lord didn't say anything about going to church, but it's important. We have to gather ourselves together, like Paul said. But he wanted us out there in the byways. I think we can do both, just like them paramedics. They go to school, church if you would. They get together with their buddies, with like minds. They edify each other. But their mission is not in the walls of that schoolhouse where they're learning, or that church house. The mission's on the street. I don't know how many times I went out to eat after church and have a good time and associate with folks, pass by families, have no idea what they're going through. Yeah, they can eat. They're out to eat, so they've got a little money to do that. But what would happen if we stopped after church, if we're going out to eat? Take that budget that we're going to eat with, and where it's right, I know not everybody's approachable, but find that little family and offer to buy their meal for them. Maybe even ask if you can sit down and eat with them. Now, your mission is not to ask them to come to your church and find out what church. Paramedics don't do that. If somebody pulls up on an accident, somebody's hurting and about dead, they don't ask them when's the last time they've been to the doctor. They don't ask them what hospital they use. They ask them, where does it hurt? And that's the whole conversation. Because the doctor will take care of that later on. Our job is to get them there. So sit down and relate to people, even if it's not on a religious standpoint. Sit down and relate to somebody. Just talk to them. We're missing that. We think we're doing it because we're all on Facebook. We're talking here. It's just different. Not upset. I'm just kind of pricked in my heart to think about the decades that I've missed not doing that. We don't do it on purpose. We'd love to. If we knew somebody was in need, we'd be all over it. Maybe we need to slow down sometimes and be sensitive to those around us. You don't have to necessarily help them, give them a bunch of money. It ain't about that. Somebody just needs a friend. Let them talk a minute. You ain't got to solve it. I know sometimes I work through it on my own once I'm able to talk it out with somebody, right? I think that's what Christ wants us to do. fact, I know it is. So go to church, assemble yourselves, don't forsake that. It's important. But if it stops there, it's going to be a rough day one day for us, I'm afraid. So I'm going to try to correct my behavior in that regard, see if I can't find a better balance on the two. But that's what's on my mind tonight. Kind of sobering if you think about it. And I think when you stop and think about it, you'll understand it too. Not getting on to you. I'm getting on to myself. But that's all right. And potatoes getting big.